Beyblade X just continues to grow with not just one, not two, but 3 brand new Beyblade releases. We're talking new bays, new parts, new accessories even. So hit that like button, hit subscribe to join the Nook Nation, say rest in peace to your wallet right now, and let's talk some Beyblade news. Today was the release of the latest issue of Koro Comics, and in that magazine, we got a massive spread on all of the upcoming new Beyblades, as well as official pictures straight from Takara Tomy. The very first bit of Beyblade news we're going to talk about is for UX-10 SamuraiSaber. This bay, I think, is sort of the main character release of these November bays. It's definitely the one that I'm most excited about, but it's also the one that we know most about already, because Takara Tomy has been both teasing and just straight up showing the entire bay for like a month at this point. But with this new information drop, we have a good look at the box, more info about the new launcher, as well as a better look at Samurai's gimmicks, because pretty much every new UX bay has gimmicks at this point. So starting from square one, SamuraiSaber is a deluxe starter of sorts, kind of like Phoenix Wing or Cobalt Dragoon, in that those bays came with their own themed accessories, and SamuraiSaber is no different. Except this new launcher is not just your standard winder or string, it is the return of the sword shape with the Beyblade X Hold Launcher. Go and check out sponsor of the channel, Mall of Toys. They're gonna have pre-order listings for SamuraiSaber, CrimsonGaruda, and the new Customize Set really soon. And if you don't want to get these releases, they have a bunch of other X bays up for sale as well. So go and check out sponsor of the channel, Mall of Toys, link in the description down below, and make sure to use code ilinnuc to get 5% off. The Hold Launcher is a fusion between a standard winder and a grip. It's kind of like Takara Tomy just super glued the two together, but there's honestly some really cool bonuses that I don't think a lot of people were expecting. The very first bonus is the fact that the grip accessories aren't just standard plastic, they're actually this pinkish rubber material, and that's great, okay? I kind of hope we get little accessories released like that at some point in the future by themselves. And this may not be a big surprise to you guys, but the winder included with this new Hold Launcher in all of its lime green glory is also a bit longer than standard winders as well. So even if you don't like this new Hold Launcher, you can use the rubber pieces as well as this extended ripcord with your own setup. And then we have the bay itself with SamuraiSaber. And this design looks really, really interesting. Kind of reminds me of Union Achilles. But this is an attack type bay, so I'm assuming it's going to be pretty heavy. I'm estimating the weight to be above 36 grams, maybe even around 37. But I have been wrong in the past, so take that with a grain of salt. But the shape and design of the bay is really nice, and some of the gimmicks are pretty cool as well. Let's talk about the parts really quick. We have 270 for the ratchet in this lime neon greenish color. I'm not the biggest fan of the two-sided ratchets because they are really burst prone. 260 was the worst part of the stock Cobalt Dragoon combo, so 270 I don't really care about. The much more interesting piece is definitely the new bit, which is L or level. The very bottom of level has 3 distinct rings that have different textures and will make your bay spin differently. Like the outer edge is going to be more jagged and more aggressive compared to the little inner dot, which is more stamina and balance oriented. Overall though, this bay is an attack type, so I'm really interested to see how this new piece does, especially with other combos. But level is not the only gimmicky part with this release. Going back to the SamuraiSaber blade, depending on the centrifugal force of the bay, which is just your spin power basically, there's going to be these little metal tabs that pop out or go back in, just depending on the spin power. But now let's move on to the second bit of news, which is the return of Dronzer. As you guys may already know, some of the latest Beyblade X standard releases are inspired on plastic gin designs. For example, Black Shell is a sort of revamp or reimagining to Drasil. Cobalt Dragoon is, Dragoon. But everybody was wondering where Dronzer was at. Well, now we have it with CrimsonGaruda. This is a BX release, and it honestly might be the last BX Bay we ever get. And to be honest, I don't really know how I feel about this Bay. Maybe it's because I'm firmly with this whole UX system and these UX gimmicks, but Garuda seems like a step back. Looking at the design, it is definitely really edgy, and it really reminds me of Vice Tiger pretty significantly. It also does have the Team Pendragon metal launcher prong, so I'm wondering if we'll see this Bay used by a character like Seal or Siguru, something like that. Hopefully we see Garuda in the anime at some point, but I'm not expecting it to be a major character or anything. I also don't know how I feel about the bird motif in the middle. It's definitely done well, and I like the different colors on it, but it's very rounded and very minimal when I was expecting something more grand and epic, especially for Dronzer. There's also all of this white blank space in the back, and I don't really think that mixes in well with the rest of the really red color scheme, but maybe it's just gonna grow on me over time. If I'm being too critical on this, let me know in the comments. Moving on to the parts, we have 470 and a brand new piece called TP, but it's not toilet paper, it is Trans Point. And this one I'm actually kind of excited about, in that it's a mode changing bit. And it's the first time we have ever seen this in all of Beyblade X. It doesn't change modes like you'd expect, like it doesn't have an attack and a defense tip built in there, but it's able to change heights. Really, it's not that substantial, it only goes up or down like 1 millimeter, but it is a sign into the future of the Beyblade X system. But that was CrimsonGaruda. I'm really not the most excited for this Bay. It definitely looks cool, and it kind of reminds me of Vice Tiger, like I said earlier, but this definitely feels like it was supposed to release several months ago, and it doesn't really hold a candle to a lot of these new UX bays, but let me know what you guys think. And now we finally move on to the release that is most likely to destroy your wallet with the UX-10 Customize Set. Now this is really, really great value, although there's one part in there that you might be upset about. But like I said, this is a customized set, and it's gonna come with a ton of different parts. There are 6 bits, 3 ratchets, and 4 blades. And 6 pieces in this set are brand new as well. The most important part of this set is definitely the new Knight variant, or evolution, whatever you want to call it, with KnightMail. As you guys know, I don't have the best history with the Knight bays, Knight Shield and Knight Lance. They're not really my favorite bays out there, but this one definitely looks really interesting. Looking at the blade, it is kind of rounded off. It seems like a sack of potatoes or like a sack of flour or something. It's very fluffy looking. That's the best way I can describe it. That knight motif in the middle looks great. It's like the knight is kind of popping out of the bay, which I really like. I like that more than Knight Shield and Knight Lance for sure. Because this is a UX bay, it has the plastic prongs. These ones are like a clear white or a silver sort of a look. But most interestingly, there are these 3 bronze-colored balls just baked into the blade. And here we have our next UX gimmick, which is balls. But seriously, the new KnightMail has 3 of these metal balls in the actual blade, and this is supposed to act as a damper weight of sorts, and it's supposed to equalize the bay's spin and keep it upright for the most part, or at least that's the way that Koro describes it, but we'll see how that actually works whenever we get the bay. If you guys were around during early Beyblade Burst, you may remember the Zeus line of bays, and that line had metal balls built into the layer as well, and this is kind of the return of that gimmick. Let's look at the parts that were meant for Knights, and then we'll move on to the other bays and other pieces in this customized set. But looking at Knight's ratchet, we have 385. I don't think anybody was expecting a middle of the road height. I'm sure there's a lot of you guys out there that would prefer a 90 height instead, because really, what's the difference between 380 and 385? Well, the difference is actually a lot bigger than you might expect. If you compare the shape of 380 and 385, you can see that 85 is a lot more round. I actually really like this change and this difference because I never really use 80 height ratchets, because typically the higher your Beyblade is, the more susceptible it is to attacks and especially bursts. So the fact that they rounded this ratchet off actually means that we might have more variance in how tall your combos are, because this ratchet looks more usable. The next and final part of KnightMail is the bit which is BS. Nope, I'm not making this up. But BS means bound spike, and this is kind of similar to maybe nothing from Beyblade Burst, sort of. The gimmick for bound spike is that it's able to bound, or kind of bounce, at least a little bit. It's kind of expectations versus reality, in that Koro says it'll do this, but we don't know what it'll actually work like in real life. I do want to stress that the bound bouncing gimmick is not in the very tip of bound spike, it's actually more in the stem. Whenever you plug this bit into your ratchet, there's going to be a little bit of a gap, and that's where this bounce action actually happens. I don't know if that's better than if they would have made the tip actually bounce like nothing, but let me know what you think. But now let's move on to the rest of the customized set, which isn't quite as exciting, but we have a lot of really good parts. Looking at the blades first, we gotta talk about Talon Terra, or rather, Terra Swing. Okay, this is another example of a Hasbro exclusive, or at least we thought was an exclusive, being released by Takara Tomy as kind of a throw-in package, I guess. They did this with the Motorized Stadium, where they gave us Bear Scratch, and that bay was kind of just thrown in there. I don't really know why we needed Bear in that set. And here we have it again with Talon Terra, or rather, Terra Swing. I don't get that name. The next blade is Hell's Hammer, but with a blue metal coat. And this bay looks great. Hell's Hammer is one of my favorite designs, but I pretty much never use it. I don't really like using this blade for competitive uses, so it just kind of sits there. So having a blue metal coat one, it's gonna stay in almost perfect condition, and it's gonna look really good. But not as good as the red and black Tyranno Beat. This is peak. This is peak. This looks insane. Tyranno Beat is already one of the best blades in the game. It does have a lot of competitive uses. So the fact that we're getting Tyranno Beat with a red metal coat, it also has a gray and black Tyranno Beat motif. It looks insane. I love the way this bay looks. It honestly looks like it could have been sold as an app exclusive. So the fact that we're getting it in a standard customized set is just amazing. Now for the ratchets, I already talked about 385 earlier, so let's talk about the other two. First up, we have a clear and red 770. This is a new piece, although it's just a higher version of 760 that came on Leon Crest. And 760 is a really good part, and it's really rounded off as well. I don't know if 70 will be better or maybe a little bit worse, but it's still a new part. And the last ratchet is a brownish bronze color 160. 160 is pretty solid depending on your combo. It's really good for Dran Buster, for example, but it's been released a few times already, and I'm not sure how excited people will be for 160, especially in this bronzish color. There's just not a lot of other parts that have this color scheme. Now let's move on to the bits, which pack an incredible amount of value. Starting with the worst one, we have a metal needle. And, okay, so I'm not gonna be using this metal needle, and maybe you guys shouldn't use it either, but if you don't have the part already, it's nice to have it. It's also really nice to have another version of Rush, this time in red. As of right now, Rush is only available in the Dagger deck set, the Hasbro Extreme Stadium, as well as the green Wizard Rod, and all of those are kind of expensive to get, and this gives you another way to get Rush. Also in an expensive set, but at least you get other good stuff. After Rush, we have a white version of Ball, and it's Ball, okay? Ball's pretty good. Ball is life. I feel like we've already had a white Ball release before, but maybe I'm wrong. It's Ball. Moving on, we have a blue Point bits, and Point is another one of those bits that are really, really good. It's one of my favorite bits in the entire game, probably the best balanced bit, in my opinion. And now we move on to probably the most interesting bit that we have here, besides, Bound Spike maybe. And we have a purple and lime green color Rubber Excel. Now remember, Rubber Excel was first announced with that 25th anniversary set, and I was kind of worried we weren't going to get a standard release of it before that set came out. And that set releases in March of next year. But the fact that we're getting a version of Rubber Excel in this customized set is really nice. And I have a question for you guys. If Rubber Excel is bad and it's not good at all, does that make the anniversary set worse in your opinion? Out of all of the releases we talked about today, which one is your favorite? Are you most excited for SamuraiSaber and that new katana sword launcher? Are you excited to see the return of Dronzer in the Beyblade X system? Or are you most looking forward to the new customized set, which gives you a ton of really interesting parts? Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Hit that like button, hit subscribe to join the Nook Nation, and I will see you in the next one. Have fun, and bay away.